Hi everyone, it's Magdalena, Wolf of Coins. Thank you so much for tuning in. I haven't been around much because life, generally speaking. But yeah, today I watched a really cool video. So yeah, let's start from the beginning. This is a VR2 video by Walking My Path, Personified Deity. But I watched a video which is a VR2 by Jennifer Ball from the Witch House, Jennifer Ball's Witch House, and it's an awesome video, so go and see it too. So yeah, I got really inspired, and I thought I would quickly just share what I have to share here. And yeah, so Personified Deity, how it came into my life. So many of you know I've been a Christian for most of my life until I was something like 27 years old, and then I quit because I realized this is not for me. This is not a path for me. But what then? I had no clue, and I felt really lost. I felt, however, that I had this really strong need for a divine presence in my life. I just didn't know what to do about it. So I felt, yeah, really lost, and help came, not in a spectacular way like some other people had, but I am still very grateful. It's probably the way for me anyway. So I started searching, I started experimenting. I do have a kind of broad knowledge about various mythologies. So first of all, I felt the need for a female deity, because after being Christian, this is something I really lacked. And I craved it. So I turned to goddesses, and there was this one who started kind of like the thoughts about her started appearing in my mind and like nagging me in a way. And I started, this is my like book of shadows, you could call it. Here I mostly like wrote my thoughts about divinity and things that I researched and found out, and how I could connect it all and whatnot. I put some songs and poetry I thought would fit my practice. But anyway, the first page here, sorry, is blank. But yeah, it's about Hera, the Greek goddess. So since I was a kid, I loved Greek mythology. It was actually a book about Greek mythology, was the first book ever that I read on my own. And I was probably something around 8 years old, and our mom used to read to us in the evenings, and it was like various stuff. But one day she started with this. I think it was her own book. It belonged to her, but then I took it away from her. See, it's 1965. Greek mythology by a Polish writer, Wanda Markowska. And it was heavily based on classical versions of myths. So Homer and such. And this is how I met Hera. It's actually, I think it's the only picture of her in this book, but I really loved all the, all the art. here, and yeah, and my mom started reading it one evening, and my sister fell asleep instantly. And I was like, oh my god, I want more. So yeah, so I took the book, and I think it took me like whole summer to read it, because yeah, it's like not a really kids book, but it does have a lot of original illustrations, let's say, from vases and sculptures. My dad was so mystified by my fascination. He was like, yeah, you just want to see the naked guys there. And I was like, why would I do that? I was just 8, so. But yeah, anyway, this was the start when I met her, and I hated her because the way she's portrayed in the late versions of myths, so the classical period, she's just a really awful person. She's jealous, she's spiteful and vengeful, and she didn't understand divine plan of her noble husband, who wanted to plant divine seeds in human population, and she was just nagging him about being unfaithful. And it was like, even then I was like, something's wrong here. I mean, who would worship, believe a goddess, someone like that? She's so unpleasant and horrible. So for many years I was like, yeah, Hera, awful. But anyway, this is a great book. It's a wonderful book. It really is based on, original Greek writings. So this is how it was in the later period, when goddesses were really, portrayed as not so divine, I would say. And a great stress was put on how awesome Zeus was and whatnot, because Hera and many other Greek goddesses were from the older layer of belief, from the people who from the autochthones, and Zeus and his pals came along, and then they married, but before that they were separate. So it was in a way also it was a way to elevate new myths new to that land, and put down the older beliefs. But still she received so much worship and respect, and it mystified me because I didn't understand it at the time. But yeah, many years later, many books later, I started to kind of see that it's not exactly how it was portrayed in this book, which I still love dearly. And yeah, so Hera came to me, and I started writing about her, what I know about her, and whose her parents were, and where she had her sanctuary, and what were her attributes and animals and whatnot, and definitely her title, Queen of Heavens. So from there I started searching, and around this time of the year, because today it's January 30th, so wait a minute, this is January 23rd, 2017, and I started thinking thinking about stuff, and then Gromnica came. So it was February the 2nd is in Poland, Gromnica. I celebrate it as a pagan holiday. However, in the church, it's celebrated as a Christian one. And it's related to a different goddess Giovanna. Different goddess than the one I was showing at the beginning, I mean. But yeah, her name means mullen. It's the same as mullen. And I started getting into, you know, this stuff about how we can see the old goddess preserved in Christian tradition. Let's say I have a whole video about Gromnica. This is so important to me because I got kind of like illuminated then that the thing I need is the Slavic faith, which I was always interested in, because after reading about Greek mythology and Celtic and Germanic and whatnot, I was like, okay, but what was going on with my people? And then I was very eager, and I found a book about Slavic mythology, and I learned, you know what, actually we don't know much. What we are sure about is that we know almost nothing, and it was so discouraging. Because, yeah, Slavic people didn't leave many written texts. They were writing on, like, not in stone or clay tablets. They wrote on tree bark and leather and so on. And this just decayed and disappeared. But anyway, this is a digression. So I was like, oh man, for many years I was like, yeah, discouraged. But then it just, this wave came back to me. I was living abroad, to add to that, and I just understood this is the way, like the Mandalorian says, this is the way. And I felt so happy. I felt just so happy. And I knew this is the direction I want to follow. And then I started connecting the dots. This feeling about Hera with a goddess from a Slavic pantheon, who was, well, from the Polish pantheon, to be honest, because depending on the region, there are many, you know, names for the deities. And I felt like, okay, if I'm Polish, why don't I research Polish names and deities? Okay, so this is what I did, like really eagerly. And yeah, and I arrived at this point. So this is Gigilia, and there are like many versions of her name, like Gigi, Lela, Zizilia, and so on and so forth. Also because of the like old orthography, people couldn't agree how to write down this stuff, but yeah. So yeah, she is related to Venus, and she's like a heavenly goddess. And what other things she has in common with Hera, other than being, well, like things we know about her, we know mostly through Mother Mary, that took place of pagan goddesses. So it was just, yeah, a long path of research and trying to connect the dots, and what I felt was right. But yeah, she is the bright heavenly goddess. She is related to the tree, and Hera actually owned the sacred apple tree. And also her bird was the cuckoo, Hera's and hers. And What else? Yeah, she has this horn here. She's definitely related to waters, but also those waters that are giving life and nourishing. So like the Milky Way, and Hera is related to Milky Way. So everything kind of fit. And she's a mother too. She's like matron goddess of marriage and love. Maybe it was, well, yeah, maybe love is believed to be more like Aphrodite's area of expertise, but marriage definitely. She's known as the goddess of love and family. And how it was with me for a long time, I started painting those various paintings of Slavic deities, but I kind of didn't dare paint her. I was, a bit like, oh, how do I portray her? And then just finally one day I made a sketch, and I think I cried. I just looked into her face on that like really simple sketch, and I was like, oh my god, she's mine. This is my goddess. And then I painted this. And I probably cried again. I was so happy. And yeah, so I knew that's my path with her. And that's mostly the story. And there is another deity. I mentioned this in my previous video, deities I call upon. I will try and link it below. But only shortly. I didn't tell the whole story here. But yeah, this is my matron goddess, and I have other like deities I call upon, but it is her who's like the center of my practice, and next to her is Yosh or Perun, the thunder god. And here, as you can see, I portrayed him as a Cossack hero, just because. There's also a video like about painting this piece, if you're curious. But on my Slavic pagan stuff playlist. But with him, I really cannot tell you, because I never had a thing for Zeus or Thor or like other thunder gods. And after Jehovah, I was also, pretty prejudiced, but still. He just kind of came forward, and I loved him. This was like much more, I think, organic than like me blindly searching like with the goddess, but I just feel it in my core. This is the one. And he's like so unlike me that I think I just need his qualities in my life. And that's why I feel so strongly about him. And yeah, what else can I say? It's just how it is. And also with Slavic mythology, with Greek mythology, everything has been written down. So you can, for example, tell, okay, this goddess is the wife of this one, and this is the son of that one, and whatever. Even though it's just one version, and it wasn't true for all the Greek people in all times. It just, we have a version, so we can base it on something. And as I said, with Polish mythology, with Slavic mythology, we don't have those like written sources, so we don't know. And I was having a problem. They're like present day Slavic pagans have like long debate, they're debating about who's married to whom and who fathered whom and whatever. And for me, it was all like very, vague and very, very difficult to sort out until I read a book by the amazing archaeologist who's in my like top 3 of like inspiring people that I keep on my desk. But Maria Gimbutas, a Lithuanian archaeologist, and she wrote that there were like different ways that newcomers who conquered some like lands would go about consolidating their faiths. And in some cases it was negating the old gods and trying to wipe them out. In case of the Greeks, it was marrying gods and goddesses. And in Lithuania, for example, it kind of was more organic, and there were gods and there were goddesses, and they kind of existed parallel to each other. So there is actually no need to like put those labels on them, who's like who is married to whom and who's mother of whom and whatever. And I really like that approach because, first of all, we don't have enough evidence for Slavic traditions to do that. And second of all, it really makes things easier. So I cannot say what is the relationship between these two. It also would depend on region and times, again, because there was a time when Perun was like less powerful, then he really grew as a god, so some believed him to be like the chief of gods, and so often then it happens that from somebody's son he turns into the father of all. And yeah, for me he's just him, she's just her. They might be mother and son because she's this mother type of goddess, but not necessarily. I wouldn't insist. So yeah, they're just there. They support me. They're like, I see them in the outside. Lisa from Tarot Alchemist had this very interesting video recently about how you connect with your guides and deities and so on. So it was about whether they are external for you or internal, and I answered under her video that for me it's both, because for me, like, he's in the thunder, he's in the oak tree, and he's inside me when I'm like, I feel this thrill of creation, I'm doing something new, and I'm so, I feel this light inside me. So this is also him, and as she as well. When I feel this like strong love inside me, I know she's there. So yeah, that was a bit longer than I expected. Sorry about that, but I haven't been around for a long time, so maybe you'll enjoy a bit longer video. And yeah, if you have something to share, please do that and notify me about it so I could watch it. And thank you so much that you spent some time with me. Have a lovely day. Bye.